It's the first Monday of the month, and that means that the new Hero Arts kit and add-ons are available. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video I'll be sharing new stamps, dies, stencils, and foil plates from the latest My Monthly Hero kit add-ons. I want to make sure you see all the products, so I'm going to jump right into the card making and share the new supplies along the way. First up is the Snowflake Pattern Stencil. Again, this is one of the add-ons for the November Hero kit. I'm going to use it with white pearl hero paste, and I have the Hero Arts palette knife as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the stencil down, kind of straighten it up on an A2 piece of blue cardstock. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to tape it down using some pixie tape to hold it in place, because I don't want the stencil to move around, but I also don't want the cardstock to move around. So I tape it to the back and then flip it over and then tape it down to the glass mat. You see me rubbing on the tape there? That's because pixie tape requires some pressure to make it stick. So it will stick down once you rub it a little bit, but if you don't rub it, it may not stick down right away. I'm going to use the palette knife and wipe some white pearl paste along the top of the card. Now, the reason that I'm not applying it to the stencil pal directly is because the stencil pal is whiter than my cardstock. So I don't want to waste a bunch of pearl paste if I don't have to. And then I'm going to take the Thermoweb stencil pal and at an angle, just slide it down along the stencil. And I really don't have to do too many swipes back and forth to get a nice even coverage of that pearl paste. I did decide to use a little bit of the silver glitter embossing powder from Hero Arts to just sprinkle it on for a little bit of extra shine. I'm going to use the next product, which is the Snowman Gift Tag Fancy Die. So you can see that I'm backing the eyes of the snowman with some black, and that is just so that those eyes look like little pieces of coal. There is a die for a teeny tiny little round piece, and I am going to use it. I've cut it 3 different times and found all 3 little dots. It is a Christmas miracle. So I'm going to use the embellishment tool to pick up those little dots and just place them on some small dots of liquid glue to make the little coal buttons on the snowman there. And then you can use the other side to kind of move it around or move it into place. In this die set, there is a band for your snowman's hat. And so I cut out the band and the scarf out of the same color so that they kind of matched. For the scarf, there are 2 pieces. You can cut the second piece out twice to have 2 pieces kind of flowing down, but I decided he's such a small little snowman that I didn't want to overwhelm him with too much on the snowman's body himself. I am going to cut off the little hole at the top, which is for turning this into a tag, because I'm going to place my snowman on a card. But you could see how cute this would be as a gift tag or even as an ornament. If you cut it out of fun foam instead of cardstock, maybe it would be really, really cute ornament to hang on your tree. I'm going to use some brown cardstock to cut out the arms, and you can see I put the adhesive on the top of the arm, and I'm just trying to make sure I get enough of the hand and arm sticking out, but not so much that it's too wide. And once that's all dry and stuck together, I can pop that up on the snowflake background. I stamped and cut into strips a Merry Christmas sentiment, and I'm going to pop those up as well. And the last thing I'm going to do is use those white Hero Arts pearl drops just in different places around the card. So I use it to create some very tiny drops and then some small or medium drops. And I love these drops because they die slightly dimensional. They're also very pearlized and pretty white. For the next card, I'm going to start with the Ornaments Grid Bold Prints stamp. This is a cling mounted stamp. It's 6x6, and you have to just peel off that little protector on the cling mount there and use it in your original size MISTI, not the mini MISTI. It's a little bit too big. It's because of that 6x6. And just remember to take out the foam pad or the mouse pad. I decided to cover mine in some ultra fine clear embossing powder from Hero Arts. So I am doing some Versamark ink and then clear embossing powder on white cardstock. And once that is completely cooled, I am going to ink blend on top. And it almost looks like magic when you ink blend on top of a clear embossed background like this. I absolutely love it. It's so easy and so much fun to create such a unique look. So you can see I have Kitsch Flamingo in the middle, Salvage Patina at the top and bottom, and I am overlapping it a little bit to create this really light purple color, which I decided I liked so much I was going to do some at the very top as well as the very bottom, and then just brighten up that Kitsch Flamingo in the center there. Just go over it a few times until you get it the effect that you want. Then I use a cloth to wipe away any excess ink that is on places that I don't want it. Next, I'm going to use the 12 Days of Christmas stamp set, and as the name suggests, it's all about the song The 12 Days of Christmas. So you have the numerical numbers, you have the numbers written out, and then you have the little images from the song and also the little names of each image. So I am using the Simon Says Stamp Grid Transparency in my Mini Misty on an A2 piece of white cardstock, and I'm justifying it to the right because I'm going to do a long strip up and down. And I get, I think, to 10, and then I ran out of room, but I figure you kind of get the gist of what's going on here, and it's okay if I didn't get all the way to 12. If you were making a 5x7 card, you could definitely get to 12 doing this kind of technique. So I'm going to ink it up with Versamark ink and then pour some silver embossing powder on top, and now you can kind of see all the script numbers and then the items underneath. So once that's done, I'm going to heat set that to melt that embossing powder, and then I'm going to cut this down to a strip, so just a little bit of margin on each side. I'm going to use a bunch of tape runner since I'm adhering it to an embossed background. That clear embossing powder needs a little extra adhesive to make sure things stick to it, but I absolutely love the look of this, especially with those inked ornament resist background. Okay, for the next card, I'm going to use the Hero Arts Holly Hot Foil Plate. So I'm going to use it with my Spellbinders Glimmer machine. Once it's all heated up, sometimes I like to pull out the plate first if I feel like I'm going to adjust the placement of everything by pulling it out if it's all going to shift. And then I put the foil down, and then I put the cardstock down, and then I put the plates down, and I quickly put it through the machine, and it came out great. So if that works for you, maybe try that method out. This one also, I love this, the gold with that foil background. Next up, I'm going to use the Winter Wishes bundle, which is stamps and dies. So you can see there's kind of like a tag. It's just a really nice medallion looking piece. I decided to stamp these in a alcohol-friendly ink so that I could do some very, very basic, because look at how tiny those images are, a very, very basic alcohol ink coloring. I am using my sketch markers because they have a really hard tip, that bullet edge tip, and I felt like it would be easier for me to color in those tiny little images. So I did color the bow, which is a little bit bigger, and I used some blending and shading for that, but the little images of the trees and such, I just colored them in. I didn't do any blending at all on them. And for the house even, I just did it in gray and then added some yellow to light up the windows. But I changed my mind on the background. So for that medallion piece, I decided to stamp and heat emboss it with gold Hero Arts embossing powder. I really ended up liking the way that looked. So that's really, really pretty. I love how the die cuts out even those pieces on the edge. I also cut out that medallion in white fun foam, and I'm adhering it down to that holly background that we created. It cuts out a center circle. For this one, I put that circle back in with the fun foam, and then I'm going to put it back in with the cardstock as well. So once it's all adhered together, it's going to be a closed circle, whereas you can have it an open circle. The only reason I did it closed here is because I felt like that holly background was so busy that you wouldn't be able to see this tiny little image. But in the next card, I'll do it a little bit differently. So here it also has a banner flag that you can stamp some different sentiments inside. This one says warm winter wishes, and then you can die cut that out. I also die cut a piece of fun foam in the banner shape. This just gets you out of, cutting tiny little pieces of foam tape. And I love a quicker method of getting everything nice and dimensional. So I'm going to adhere those down with the liquid glue, and I love this. I think it's so cute and so much fun, and I love that foil background. All of these combine to make a really quick and easy pretty card. For the next one, I'm going to use the silver holly background. I did again cut out the medallion with fun foam, but what I didn't do was use that circle centerpiece. So instead, I cut out the little scene with fun foam as well to pop up that little scene, and that helps it stand out a little bit from that leafy background. But I also think the silver is just a little more subtle than the gold, so I think you can get away with it. I decided to heat emboss the banner this time as well as the sentiment. So I am stamping and heat embossing both the banner and then the sentiment inside it with gold embossing powder and cut that out. And I like that because the gold kind of goes along with the medallion, and then you have the silver as a mixed metal on this card, which I really ended up liking. So the last thing I did to both of them was add a little bit of those pearls to the snow, just to add a little dimension and shine to the snow as well. For this card, I'm going to use two different products that we've already covered. The ornament background, that cling mounted stamp. This time I am stamping it and heat embossing it with white satin pearl embossing powder from Hero Arts. This is definitely one of my favorites for backgrounds because it creates a very subtle look and it just adds some shine to the color of your cardstock. I've decided to also use again the list of the 12 days of Christmas, only this time I'm going to stamp and heat emboss them on vellum. So this will just give it a slightly different look, I think. So I decided to use white embossing powder this time. I thought that would stand out really nicely against the background. And I decided to share some of the images with you. So I wanted to make sure that I used a few of these tiny little images. They're so cute, but I thought what I would do is I would just pick 4 and kind of line them up next to all those sentiments and then stamp and heat emboss them. Only use gold embossing powder this time, especially for the 5 golden rings. I thought that was perfect. Again, I just cut it down to a strip, and then I'm going to put tape runner behind all of the letters and images. So it will hide the tape runner. You won't be able to see it, but this piece will definitely stay stuck down to the card. And you can still see the hint of the ornaments in the background. And of course, the silver pearl really shines on the left. I'd love to hear if you had a favorite today. Let me know in the comments below. If you're working on holiday cards right now, don't forget to check out my playlist, Get a Jump on Christmas. I'll link to that over here. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Not sure. All over again. Or released. Sounds weird. One more time. Piece something together there. Check out my